Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started with it. Looks like we do have a question, so welcome us on Wednesday workshop. Let's go ahead and hop right in. Can we talk about setting up text messages? I believe I need to choose a number. Is there a way to then make that number forward to our main number? So when we talk about text messages with an open and close, the first steps is going to be going over to your person icon, going over to phone numbers, and selecting an active number here. Obviously, I don't have an active subscription, so I can't claim a number. The other thing that you might need to take a look into is there could be some additional steps here that require you to go and register the number with Twilio. That way your number doesn't get flagged as spam when you start to send out communication. Um, there are usually some steps like that that you would need to follow, and I believe that we have articles on it. I can type this in Twilio and see if we have anything from our AI Academy, and if not, I can search our guides. That is, of course, if that's still the case. You might just be able to select an active number. Okay, we'll let it do its thing thinking. After you've selected your active number here, you're going to want to make sure that that's assigned to a particular user. When that number is assigned to a particular user, at that point, they would be able to send out text messages from open to close. You'd also technically be able to place calls from open to close as well. The way that the calling works is that if you go to a contact and you say, okay, I need to call Pam Beasley right here. When we click on that call button here, if we had an active number, it would use that as a VOP. So it'd be the number that would show up, would be the number that you have assigned to you with an open and close, but it would ring on your phone, you'd answer on your phone, and then you'd call, and then, it would place the call. It would just show the agent, or it would show whoever the person is that you were calling, it would show the number that you selected with an open to close. For text messages specifically, they are not going to be able to forward to your phone number or a different phone number. Any text messages sent or received will come here to this text inbox. So you'll see them underneath new, received, sent, or scheduled. Here, this is where you'd see those text messages. You can also go to a property and you can go over to text and you'd be able to see compose, sent and received, or scheduled text messages if you needed to. Text messages, one caveat with text messages that I usually like to point out is that text messages are not like email templates or emails. They're not a threaded communication that's linked to a specific subject line. Instead, they're different. I'll keep it simple like that. They're not the same as emails. So when we get a response, if I'm your agent and you send me 3 different text messages about 3 different properties, and I respond, sounds good. Sounds good. I'll call you about my buyer's decision later, right? But if you sent me a text message about 3 different properties, who knows which buyer I'm talking about, right? At that point. So when we talk about text messages, when we're receiving them, they'll always go to this text inbox where you can then assign those text messages out to different properties if you wanted to. But initially, it's going to come into open and close. It's going to come to the text inbox and it's going to wait for you to read it and either reply or add it to a specific property if needed. Cool. Usually I recommend using text messages as kind of like alerts, right? So maybe you wanted to just send your an agent an alert that says something as simple as your inspection's coming up at this property at this time, type of thing, or EMD has been received, or we've requested EMD, it needs to be delivered by this date, kind of thing. So keeping it simple, keeping it something where the person doesn't necessarily need to respond. It's more of just a notification, kind of like those text back one to confirm your appointment. I would use it as that. Like, you have an appointment coming up. This is just a reminder for it so you know what's happening, kind of thing, versus using it as a form of communication about details for the property. Guess I need to know how to get an active number in my account. Yeah, so again, up at that top person icon here, you should be able to go to phone numbers as long as you are subscribed to open to close. You should be able to search for a phone number here. If you see the same screen as me and you are subscribed to open to close, I want you to go down to the chat icon. I want you to click on chat and I want you to send our team a message. Send my support team a message, say, hey guys, I'm trying to set up a textable number. This is the screen that I'm getting. If you want to share a screenshot with them, I'm a subscriber. What are the steps that I need to take? And have our support come and help you out, because I have the number removed from my account, and because I'm not an active subscriber, because this is a test account, a fake account, it doesn't, it's obviously I'm not getting the same prompts as what you guys would get if I was live. Let me know if that makes sense. As far as for what the next steps are that you would need to do. I know that there was something with Twilio that was required, like our government. It wasn't just us requiring it, but the United States government was requiring people to register their businesses with Twilio to be able to send out numbers in an effort to combat spam. Type of thing. I know that there was like some legislation about that. I don't know the exact details of it. I didn't really pay attention to it too much, but I do know that Twilio kind of required that. To be able to use their numbers, you have to have a registered business with them. So I think that there could be something with that, but again, I'd reach out to our support to see about getting that activated in your account if you're not seeing that option when you go to that same location. Again, person icon, phone numbers. This should take you to the screen where you can activate that number. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Can we talk federal holidays? Columbus Day is technically a federal holiday, so I have it set as such in OTC for date calculations on deadlines. However, our offices are not closed. I have my tasks set to roll forward on federal holidays because that's 99% of the case. Any ideas on how to show tasks on Mondays since we are open? I have actually run into the same exact issue, Brittany, but with my calendar for some reason. For holidays, this is going to be kind of a hard one. I'm going to go back over to our global settings. I'm going to scroll down to show anyone who's looking for it. You're going to go to your gear icon to global settings, and then here on this left-hand panel, you're going to scroll down until you see federal holidays. And then this is where we can set up those federal holidays here. Now, for Columbus Day, this is a hard date. It's a difficult date because technically you can set up the date roll options here. For like calculation, if anything lands on it, this is what it wants it to do, kind of thing. Roll forward to Monday, roll backwards. I think this is rules on when it needs to land on what date. I would say that while yes, it's a federal holiday, if your offices aren't closed and you still need the tasks to show up on that day, I would delete this date completely. It's the same thing for me. I had to go into Calendly and I had to delete Columbus Day as a date so that it no longer interfered with scheduling with me come this next Monday. And it might be the same case for you guys where if you go, yeah, it's a federal holiday, but we are still open and we still go to the bank or we still work with so and so, then I would go ahead and delete the date completely. Otherwise, if you've said that this is a federal holiday and you have your rules set up as rolling forwards or rolling backwards, this is going to come into effect. There is no workaround for that. It's working as intended, so we don't have except for this specific date. If it's a date that it's not applicable or you don't have to worry about it interfering with your task management, I would delete it. Specific, yeah, for that one. Either that, or if you know that there's certain tasks that need to land on that date, I would schedule it for that date. So I don't have any tasks right now. I think I have a filter on here. Oh, that was Riley's buyer under contract. Let me just go to buyer. What I would do is instead, I mean, you can always reassign the tasks by dragging them manually, or if you're on a property, you can also update the tasks here to say, I would like this to be due on, and this is way in the past. We're going to pull it all the way into the future. Here we go. we can have it assigned to that specific date. So it doesn't necessarily lock you out of scheduling tasks on that date. It's just when it comes to that date calculation here, the date option calculation here, if you have that set up to skip, it's going to skip. Or roll forwards, it's going to roll forwards. Roll backwards, it'll roll backwards. Did you find out anything about text messages, text emails being forced to roll back to a weekday if set to auto send on a weekend? Oh, let me double check. I think I had a message thread with my team about that. Hmm. Doesn't look like I got an answer in regards to it rolling back to a weekday. Do we already have a ticket for that, Camille, in support? Did you already reach out to support regarding that? I can't remember. We did? Okay. Let me see if I can find an answer for that ticket. Okay, so it looks like it's a limitation of our product. But I found the ticket. I'm looking through it. It looks like it is a limitation on our end. I'm not sure why it's a limitation though. So I don't see anything additional or separate that was shared in notes versus what was shared with you as in regards to that. So it looks like right now we're just waiting to get a feature update from our team in regards to that particular tool to be able to send it out. It's interesting though, because I thought that if they were scheduled for that day that they would go out, but maybe that's not the case. Okay. Now again, are you doing this as task not completed or are you doing this where you're scheduling the emails to land on the weekend? I can't remember. Because task not completed, and I'll say this again, I've said this before, setting up a trigger to say task not completed and it needs to send out communication as a way to um, use the system to get this to go out on a specific date, right? I'm going to let this task expire so that email goes out on a specific date and time. This is not, yeah, this is not the way that we would recommend using the system. It's not built for this, right? So keep that in mind when it comes to this particular feature. When we start to bring it up to the developers and we start to say, hey, can we have it do this? Can we have it do this? If the developer, no, well, I'm not the developers necessarily, but if we find that this is a how do I word this? If we find that this can cause legal issues with sending out communication because there is no validation to make sure that this email template, other than you saying that you validated and checked it, we might turn that feature off completely, right? That's because, again, if I say that I want this to go out automatically and I set up the contingency as going out, I don't know, let's say 10 a.m., the same day as, and I say update, right? And I say, if the task is not completed by 10 a.m., I want this email to send out automatically. This is a way that we're manipulating the system to be able to send out this communication. And if this is the incorrect communication or goes to the wrong party members, for anyone who decides to use it this way, whose fault does that rely on? We're the ones who set it up and made it available to you, but you were the ones that used it in a way that it's not intended to be used. So that can cause an issue. I don't know if they're going to be able to make, I mean, again, we'll have to wait to see what happens on that ticket for it. But again, this is not a way that I would recommend using the system because I don't even think that this email template is, oh, well, it's got some people on it. And it looks like the information's in there correctly, but we don't have the start time for this, right? All it takes is for one specific issue, like one time that you accidentally send it to the wrong person or it doesn't have the right thing attached to it and that fails a deal for you. And you come back to open and close and you go, hey, I used your system to do this and it broke. And then we're having a different kind of conversation. And I don't usually recommend doing it this way um, unless you for sure understand the ramifications behind if we do this wrong, what happens kind of thing. So we'll have to wait to see on that ticket. I don't know about it auto sending on the weekends or sending out like, through that. Um, Obviously, the servers are still live on the weekend because you can log in and do the work that you need to do on the weekend, but I'm not sure. We'll have to wait until we hear back from support um, specifically for that. Yeah, we'll just have to wait. Sorry. All right. Okay. It looks like we don't have any other questions that are in the Q&A. And I'm looking at our FAQs and it appears that most of the FAQs from this week were just about the different types of updates in the system. As you guys are aware of, we obviously made a change to the layout of the system. I don't mind going through a run of the layout of the system if we wanted to do that, but I know that we had some uh uncomfortability on Monday when we were in there and we were trying to access certain things. There was just an adjustment to the server that needs to be done. Obviously, that's been resolved, so we should be good to go. But if you guys are ever experiencing those issues, reach out to support. That's the first thing. That's your first line of defense. Let's see. Is there a one-on-one with OTC support through the Zoom? One is being used by our brokerage and one is being used by our team. We believe there's a way to toggle which option we wanted. Each would have fill out a different intake form. The team intake form would be more detailed. Is there a way to have those two options? So Dawn, not necessarily with OTC support, like not our support team necessarily, but we do have but we can meet together to talk about that for a one-on-one session and kind of some strategy about it. I'm trying to understand. So we have quite a few questions. One of the most important ones is that our TC is using OTC for two different groups of people, one being the brokerage and one being our team. We believed there used to be a way to toggle which option we wanted and and each would have different intake forms to fill out. The team intake form would be more detailed than the brokerage intake form. Is there a way to have those two options? So yes, when we talk about organizing our account, if we go to organization and users and we go to teams, this is where you can split up those teams into the different user sets that you need to. So we can say, okay, and I think I'm logged into I think I know which account I'm logged into now and why we're seeing, because I just realized that this says Riley and Hannah. So this is my old demo account that I haven't been into a while. But so looking here, this is where we can split up those teams. You can say that this is the brokerage. And then this is let's just say agent team, or we'll say Dawn's team. Right? So we can have it split up this way. When we talk about assigning the users, you can say, okay, well, on the brokerage, these are the two users that need to be on here. And on my team, it needs to be this particular user. When we go and we talk about that intake form, it depends on who's filling it out. For the brokerage, if they're the ones filling it out, right, we've got maybe agents logging in to fill that out. Then when the agents fill it out, I'm going to go over to templates, intake forms. We're going to go ahead and go to buyers residential, and we'll go to assigned agents. Here, we'll say, okay, the brokerage, Kelly is part of the brokerage. Anytime she fills out this intake form, then it's gonna go and be assigned to Hannah and make sure it's assigned to the brokerage team. However, Justin over here, he's on Dawn's team, and that's gonna go to Riley. If we wanted to have it, if we're using the same intake form. If this Briar's residential is for the brokerage, you can just say the brokerage. That's the one for the brokerage. And let's say this one here is for Dawn's team. So you can have two separate intake forms set up. You just need to set them up to be separate. That's it. For these ones. But as far as for like one-on-one time, there is that option. Let me grab a link for you. I am a bit booked out, but we can start with a 30-minute and kind of go from there. We can talk about what kind of updates and changes you need to make to your account. And then from there, we can schedule some more time together. I sent you it should be a private message with the link to schedule with me. And we can talk about strategy and what you're wanting to do and how many intake forms do we need and how do we separate it so that, the brokerage information is separate from your team's information. No worries, no worries. I'd like to change a field from a text area to a drop-down menu. Sounds like I need to create a new field, correct? Would I just archive the old field so that it shows on old files? If I delete the field, it's gone on all the fields, correct? How do I best do that? Great question. So yes, I would start by going over to our fields and locating whatever field it is that you needed to alter. So I'm just going to go over to transaction details, and we're going to pretend that I don't really have one. That would be a good example. All of mine are actually already choice fields, but let's say you needed to convert it into a choice field. Here in the field section, when you locate where you want to put it, you're going to select add field. You're going to put in the name. Now the name can't be the same as what you have for that other field. So let's say you have it called EMD status, and it's a text area where you type in. When you create your new choice field, it's going to have to be slightly different. So we would call it earnest money status, right? We grab this, pop it in there, say it's a choice field, and then you can say add field. And then it'll ask you, okay, what are the options? You put in your drop down options here. I would recommend if you're going to have it on your intake form, if you have more than 3 options, you might want to change this to the radio button view if you need to. Otherwise, you can leave it as that drop down view. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you'll say, I understand an update, and it'll create that field for you. The field that you do want to archive, I recommend clicking on that field and adding in either TBD, to be deleted, or to be archived. That way you know that you're going to eventually not want to use this field anymore. I would then go and find all of the places that that field is connected to. So you can click on the little eye icon, and this will show you what it's connected to if it was on any intake forms. But I would find out where it was connected to, and then I would go and I would remove it from all of those other areas. It might be even better for you to move the field completely. Hopefully you already have an archived field section at the bottom of your account. If you do not have an archived field section at the bottom of your account, then maybe leave the field there, but you might want to reorder it. So like right now I have 2 duplicates. I might want to take EMD status and bring it to the bottom. And again, update its name so I know that I'm moving away from this field. But I would need to go and double check everywhere else, because if I go to my templates and I go to my intake form, let's go to my buyers, I might need to go to my transaction details, down to earnest money, and here's EMD status. I need to unselect EMD status and select this new status that I'm using, right? So make sure you unselect that field to say that you don't want it to come on anymore. If this is a field that is coming on through form triggers, so for example, you see how none of my appraisal details have been selected on either side. I have my appraisal details applying to my properties when I say, yes, there is an appraisal. Okay. So in this case, what I would do is when it comes onto the property, if I didn't want to see it, I would scroll down to the appraisal details section. I'd click on manage and I would unselect that one field that I don't want to be on there. So if we go to transaction, I'm going to go down to appraisal details. Here, I don't want appraisal schedule to show up. I'm going to unselect it and say update fields. And now if we scroll down, that appraisal scheduled question is gone. Okay. So either uncheck it in your intake form if you need to remove it from your intake form and make sure it doesn't come onto the properties anymore, or you'll have to do this manual step to remove it from the properties. That way you don't use it anymore. The hardest part about switching over to your fields is, yeah, we might lose the data if we delete it, but it's also actually implementing the actual field that you need to implement, right? It's switching over to that process. But those are the two steps that I would take to get into it. So, and then I would say once you've closed out your deals for 2025, you can then go back through and delete any fields that you don't need. And the reason I usually say wait until the end of 2025 is because if you need to come back and refer to it, you can. You might even wait longer than that if you really need to. Or the other thing that you can do is you can go to properties and you can go to, let's say you want to look at your active transactions. We'll just say buyers under contract. We want to look at our active transactions. I can go to table columns. I can go to transaction details and grab earnest money status and EMD status. I can drag them to the top. This is the two fields. I can say close, and then I can go through and say, okay, well, I need to update the new status for this. Obviously, I don't have any, but you could do this as well to update that information from that text area into that field for all of your 2025 transactions. That way, if it was in use, you now know that that value has been saved onto your 2025 transactions, and you're not going to lose that data. So this is another way to make sure that you don't lose the information if you're going to be switching over from a field to a text area, text field to a choice field. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I really like this to be able to update the fields, if I'm being honest with you. It's one of my favorite tools to be able to use those table columns and update those statuses. Anytime I do a revamp with you guys, if you have been on a revamp call with me, you know that I usually go through and I discuss revamping your fields first. We talk about deleting things we don't need. We talk about identifying things that were built because we thought we needed it, but we decided we didn't later, and all of that kind of stuff is it takes some time, but once you get it done, your fields are really the foundation of your system. So if we make sure that that's all settled, we don't really have to worry too much about anything else. Like it goes pretty quickly for everything else. Cool. Awesome. Well, like I said, I don't see any other FAQs that we want to go over. A lot of them were just about, the outage, but obviously we were able to correct that on open to closes end. So there's no update that I can provide further with that. We can talk about navigation a little bit. I think the main thing that I want to get across to you guys is that you might see some issues with your account if you're on our previous pricing plan. So if you're on our V1 pricing plan, that's the premium plus add-on, or the premium plus add-on. I think it's add-on scale, something like that. If you're seeing issues in your account as far as for different areas that you were looking for example, like maybe you were looking for your submission pipeline and you couldn't see that, it might be time to upgrade from that previous pricing plan to the new pricing plan. I think that our team right now is going through and working on updating things so that you can get back to that submission pipeline. But for now, I'd say, as long as you have your intake forms submission, that widget on your dashboard, you should be fine. to be able to access any new intake forms that were submitted to you. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Well, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A, so I'll go over navigation of the new app really quickly, and then I will close out today's call unless I see another question come in. So up at the top, we're going to click on our three-line icon just so that we can see and expand this view here. We've got our dashboard, that's still the same. We've got our properties view, that's still the same. Now we've umbrellaed our pipelines together. So we have our task pipeline, our trigger pipeline for our email communication, text message communication. And then we also have our submission pipeline. This is where you're going to see those intake forms. As long as, again, you're on that pro, grow, or scale plan, you'll see your intake forms here. You might see primary, you might see secondary, and it looks like in my account I have inbound webhooks. We also have a new tool called Upcoming Dates. This allows you to create filtered views based off of the dates. So you can create different snapshots to say, okay, I want to focus on these dates or these dates. And that's what this particular view does. It does show you all of the properties. There are some additional filters below to be able to say, I want to look at the ones that are in this specific status or this specific contract type, the specific team, or the specific user. Below that, we have contacts, still the same. We've got our email inbox. We've got our text message inbox. We've got reporting. If you haven't played around with our reporting tool, this reporting tool works based off of your fields. So if we click on add new widget, these are going to be all of the fields that you have in your account that you can pull a report off of, including dates. The choice options are one of my favorite fields to pull a report on. So I can see, okay, well, how many closed transactions did I have for this year or last year if I wanted to. And now I have these two reports. I can see year 2025, 2024, and I can update this to the closing date for 2025. And I can update this to the closing date for 2024. And that's going to pull a report for me to see how many transactions were closed from last year to this year. Below that, we have our calendar. Obviously, this is still the same. If you guys are okay or you feel safe to have your calendar public, you can do so. If not, I don't usually recommend having your calendar public. That's what we kind of swapped it out for upcoming dates with. So it's not a calendar view, it's a list view, but it still shows all of the dates that you have. Below that, we have connections. These are going to be where your apps and your APIs are. Below that, we have webhooks. Depending on what plan you're on will depend on whether or not you see webhooks. If you are on the Grow plan, webhooks might be there, but it might be a blank page. Just keep that in mind. If you're on the Pro or Scale plan, you will have access to webhooks. We've made a couple adjustments to the webhooks now. We have the new options in here. So we've got when a property is created, when a contact's created, when a task is created, or when a document is uploaded or created as well. So this would be, again, where we're seeing some updates to the amount of webhooks that we can do. I have seen a lot of people come in here and use when the task is completed tool. This guy's actually really cool. It shows you the user, it shows you the time frame down to the second, and it shows you the task, the property that it was created on, and if there was an email associated with it as well. So this can be really great for if you guys ever need to do an audit. Maybe you're like, oh, our agent didn't receive this communication. That's so weird. They should have done that. Let's pull a report on our tasks. This is a tool that can help you pull that report if you'd like to. I usually recommend setting it up sooner than later so you can get it to just feed into a spreadsheet on the back end. And then if you ever need to go back and search for things, you can. But I really like this tool, especially for like the task completed again, like I said. Cool. Below that, we have our settings, global settings. This is going to be where all of our global settings are now. A lot of things were merged underneath here. I recommend coming in here and taking a peek at it. Below that, we have our templates, our fields, our merge fields, and smart blocks. Other than that, on the right-hand side, we have our person icon. We've organized our phone numbers, email signatures, and email addresses all underneath that kind of profile access person icon view. And then down at the bottom, we have our chat where you can reach out to our support if you click on chat and you send us a message, or you can always search our database for additional assistance here. Looks like we do have an another question. I've experienced the issue, submission pipeline being empty when a form is submitted on the pro plan. Am I affected? Oh no, so what I was referring to was this isn't even here. So if you're on the premium or the premium add-on plan, submission pipeline is not even here. It's not even an option. This option here is not here. It only says task pipeline and trigger pipeline. So no, Camille, you might be experiencing something different. When what I would do is I'd probably reach out to support if you're like, I just submitted an intake form and I'm not seeing it underneath my submission pipeline. Reach out to support. There could be something going on with that. Also, the other thing with it is that when you say that you submitted the intake form, did we just say save and continue at the bottom of this screen, or did we get to that review screen and say submit, right? And did you get the thanks for submitting that intake form? Because if we just say save and continue and cancel the form or close out of it, it doesn't actually submit that form. It becomes an uncompleted form that just kind of sits there and waits. Sometimes it goes into limbo and it doesn't really do anything. But in your case, again, if you're on the pro plan, I'd reach out to support. There could be something else going on. Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Well, I don't see any other questions. We did a soft review of the navigation with an open and close. I'll go ahead and do my end of call spiel, and then I will let you guys go. Give you guys back about 20-ish minutes back into your day. So as always, if you need help, reach out to us at help@openandclose.com. You can also chat with us by going to the chat icon, clicking on chat, and chatting with us live here. We had an update to our website. So if you guys ever want to take a peek at that and see what we have updated on here, you can do so. Same thing with our pricing. We've updated just what are the options and kind of just seeing everything that is available on each one of the plans and the tiers. If you notice, there's a lot that's selected for all of them. There's only a few that are not selected on that Grow plan. Same thing with that Pro plan. There's very little that's not selected on there. But yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, I will let you go. I appreciate you joining me today, and I will talk with you guys next Wednesday.